Part 2 of Jacob the Curious, written by Kay Bivens. I fought back the tears and followed the great company of people. I pushed my way up to the front so that I could see Jesus. I could not believe my eyes. Jesus was made to carry his own cross. It was so heavy he almost fell. Out of the crowd came a man by the name of Simeon, a Syrian. He took the cross and carried it for Jesus. My heart was breaking to see Jesus in so much pain. He was bleeding from the whipping he had been given. Women were crying and wailing. Jesus turned to them, and Jesus said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children." Soon Jesus and the great throng of his followers arrived at the hill of Golgotha, just outside the walls of Jerusalem. It was the hill that the crucifixion was to take place. This place is called Calvary. I asked people around me, "What does this mean?" Then I saw the nails in the cross, and I watched in agony as soldiers drove the nails in the hands and feet of Christ. He is hung on the cross. The tears ran down my cheeks, and I looked into the eyes of Jesus Christ. I felt the warm glow of his love for me, and I felt a great burst of strength and his final blessing. Then I knew that I will never be alone, that he will always be with me. I hear my name called. "Jacob, get some vinegar and put it on the sponge." I hear laughter and see the Roman soldiers with the robe of Jesus. They are casting lots and mocking Jesus. I ran as fast as I could to get the sponge, and I fill it with vinegar, not knowing why they wanted it. When I returned, I gave it to the soldier. What does he do with it? But he offers it to my Lord. There's a sign on the cross that reads, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." I see the crown on the thorn of his head and the agony on his face. The sky is getting darker. Thunder, lightning, and winds are coming up. I hear Jesus say, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." The sky is getting blacker. The storm is terrible. Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Mary Magdalene and other devout people are there weeping for their Lord. And Jesus cried with a loud voice, "Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit." And having said thus, he gave up the ghost. There was a man who was named Joseph, who begged for the body of Jesus. He took Jesus' body down and wrapped it in linen and took his body to the new tomb, and they rolled a heavy stone in front of it. My mother took me home, and we wept. Then my mother let me sleep in the next morning. She did my chores for me. I awoke with a start, dressed, and ran to the tomb in the garden. I hoped that the events of yesterday had been just a nightmare, but upon reaching the tomb I found others there staring at the stone that had been rolled away from front of the tomb. There were two men in shining white garments sitting by the tomb. I was told that they were angels. All that was left in the tomb was the linens that had been wrapped in Jesus' body. I knew that Jesus was dead, but where was his body? Then I heard the angel say, "Be not amazed, for Jesus of Nazareth was crucified, whom ye seek has risen. He is not here. Come see the place where they laid him." The two women left to find the apostles to tell them to come to the tomb. Mary Magdalene and my curious self are now the only ones left in the garden. I stay hidden behind the trees, and my heart breaks for Mary and the world. Mary is quietly weeping, and a man approaches her and asks her why she's crying. She tells him about the body of Jesus and that it was missing. She thought that he was the gardener. The man said, "Mary." She turned to him and cried out to him and was going to touch him when he said, "Touch me not, for I am not ascended to my Father. But go to my brethren and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. I will return to see them." Mary Magdalene hurried off to find the disciples and that she had seen the Lord and he had spoken these things to her. I listened and watched with amazement. Then I remembered the teachings of my mother and the disciples of Jesus. After the death of Jesus, he would be resurrected. I began to understand. I knew I could not look Jesus in the eye again, but I could feel his love in my heart, and I knew that his spirit would always be with me. I knew that I would be with him someday. I wearily walked back home, and my mother, I walked about, we talked about the events of the last week. My mother helped me to understand that it was necessary for Jesus to suffer and to die, and to rise again on the third day. That Jesus did this for each of us, and we should be thankful to him for his sacrifice, and that he loves us unconditionally. I want to be more like Jesus. I am going to live the way Jesus would have me live so I can return to him someday and look into his eyes and feel the warm glow of his love for me. I am still curious about so many things. Where did Jesus go during the time that he was resurrected until the time that he ascended into heaven? Do you suppose he visited other boys and girls somewhere else on the earth? Did he teach them about baptism and how to love one another, to pay tithing and live the Beatitudes? Did he bless the sick and heal the lame? Did he gather the children in his arms and bless them as he did me those many months ago? I'm curious. When will he come again? I'm very curious to know. But for now, I hear my mother calling. She has baked bread for the poor widow down the street, and she wants me to deliver the bread to her. As I run down the street, the morning sunbeams radiate out across the hill called Calvary. I feel a warm feeling deep in my heart, and I am curious. What is it like to be in heaven?